so it was my adopted parents that had told me about it.
Okay.
Because my sister ended up, yeah, so my sister actually ended up going back to Tonga eventually, and she got married and she's got kids. Um, but I never understood why, growing up, my sister, I never understood why she didn't like it when men touched her or when men was so close to her. Or, and I didn't understand why I didn't, why, why I was uncomfortable having men surrounded, men around me or anything like that. I didn't understand that either. But I was comfortable, of course, with my granddad. I was comfortable with my brothers. Um, but for some reason I was never, well, I never had a, like I said, I never had a connection with my dad at all. um Anyway, my dad only said two words to me majority of the time, was just hello when I came back from school, or goodbye. Like that was it. Like he wouldn't take me out on like ice cream treats like he would do with my siblings. He would never like, it was never a like, oh Maria, come here, like do you want to hang out or anything, like, we'll have a fun. I never had a father daughter bond
Yeah.
with my own
Yeah.
dad. um that's why I was so close to my mom, and my
Yeah.
siblings hated the fact that I was close to my mom. But yeah, so when I found out that that had happened to me, it was hard to believe at first. I turned around and I was like to my parents, no, you guys are lying. Like, you guys are just saying that so I don't go back to my biological parents. Like, that type of thing. Like, you start
Hmm.
questioning everything, and you start questioning them, whether or not you trusted them or not, But then they gave me a couple of days to cool off and, like, and think for myself, like to think. And in that period, I was thinking, like, maybe maybe they are telling the truth, because then why would I feel uncomfortable around any male around me? Why would I feel like I have to, like, why do I feel like I have to, like, bring my bubble, smaller, and, like, and, like, my guard up so much to trust guys, and yeah, I eventually started, like, investigating. I wanted to know if my biological mom knew about it or anything like
Yeah.
that. So I asked my adopted parents. I was like, how did you guys find out? Because,
Yeah.
like, I was like, how did you guys find out? And they're like, well, we have a lawyer and solicitor in Tonga who we asked to do some investigating and stuff. And they investigated and they found out that, yeah, that is exactly what my sister and I had gone through. And they went back to when the Italian woman who I'm named after, it went back to when she was still alive. So, so that explained why my dad would always drop me and my sister off at times to her place, and say that he'll come back around later and all this and that. So that's when it occurred. So my dad, and like, I'm not one to bring family matters into it or anything like that, but, like, my family, just like majority of other Tongan families, like my family, my Tongan family, it was perfect, but imperfect. So, like, there's, it's, no family is perfect,
Hmm.
but my family was a broken family. But my mom did everything in her power, including my grandparents, to make it feel like it was a happy family. They did everything they did in their power to make it a happy and safe environment for myself and for my siblings, but mainly for myself and my sister. Um, so my dad and the Italian woman were in on it. So she knew about it. My
Wow.
dad's sister knew about it as well.
Yeah.
Um, when my mom eventually found out what had happened, because one day when my dad had did that to me and my sister again, um, he he felt really, like, I think that's when it started hitting him, like, how could I keep doing this to my daughters,
Yeah.
So he wanted to end it all. He wanted to like end his memory of, like, doing that. He wanted to end the fact that my sister and I were proof of him doing that to
The,
somebody, even his own
yeah.
kids.
The guilt.
So
the guilt. Yeah.
he went off and he went to his sister and asked his sister and said to his sister, like, look, admitted it to his sister and said, I want to get rid of the whole situation. What can I do? And his sister just turned around and said, I don't know what to do, but all I can think of is like, let's try and overdose them with pills. And, because we were young, we were toddlers,
Oh my God.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so it was like, oh, we can try and like make an excuse and like, overdose them with pills and just say that they got into the cabinet or something like that, So yeah, so that's what they tried to do. Of course they didn't succeed, because if they did, myself and my
Yeah.
sister wouldn't be
Yeah.
here. But
Yeah.
you know, my I don't know who came and found us, but yelled out and called the ambulance. Of course, the ambulance would have like taken forever, so put us in the car, drove us, and the doctor contacted my mom. So the doctor that they went to, that's another thing that they made a
Wait. So,
mistake on,
so,
was the
so
fact that they
no. So they attempted to do it. With
yeah,
the.
they attempted. They
Oh
attempted
wow.
to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, they failed. The wrong thing that they did was that they went to our family doctor.
Oh.
So yeah, so going to our family doctor, my our family doctor has my mom on like speed dial, like just ring my mom straight away if anything happens, especially if it involves me. Because like back then, like I I got sick so easily and stuff. Like I was the only one out of my whole entire family that if I had a fever, it's a bad fever. If I had a
Yeah.
cold, it was a bad cold. So like, of course he'd have my mom on speed dial. Rang my mom. My mom came and and she was questioning like what happened and all this and that. And my dad's sister was there as well. So my mom had questioned, asked the doctor what had happened, and the doctor said, oh well, apparently they were at, the auntie's house, and the cousin or whatever found them, with pills all over, and like they must have managed to take a few in or whatever it is. And yeah, and my mom questioned, like my mom turned around and she was like crying, like she was so upset. She was like, in tears. And then it clicked to her. She was like, but my daughters aren't that tall enough to reach the cabinet,
Yeah.
and the pills are in the cabinet, like high up. Like nobody's allowed to touch that cabinet unless it was my auntie or somebody else. So
Yeah.
my mom started questioning my auntie, and then my auntie eventually, like my dad's side of the family hates my mom. They
Yeah.
hate my mom so much. But yeah, so like my auntie eventually gave in and told her the story. My mom, fuming as she was, went up to the Italian woman, questioned her and everything. And like again, the story came out, asked my dad. My dad admitted to it. My mom, growing up, I thought like when I found out about it and I found out that like because I rang my mom and I asked her about it, and my mom told me everything. And at first I was angry at my mom because she never told my sister and I. And she turned around and she said, the reason why I never told you was because I didn't do that. And I didn't know about it until I almost lost you. She said, it was your dad's mistake. It's your auntie's mistake. It's that they are the ones that have to come to you and admit it to you. She's like, because at the end of the day, me telling you now, you could go and question your dad, and your dad could turn around and point blank lie to you, And I said, okay. I sat down and I was like, okay, I understand that. But then I said to her, but why would you let that man be around us?
Yeah.
Like, why would you still be with him,
Yeah.
and allow that dangerous man to be around me and my sister? What if he could have done it to my baby sister? What
Yeah.
if he decided to like experiment on my brothers? Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
understand. I said to her, like, the fact that you're like, I turned around and I was like, he's a criminal in my eyes. I
Yeah.
turned around and I was like, the fact that you're allowing a criminal to go,
Yeah.
to allow him to be in my safe environment, like, and to continue to be there, like, it's not right. But I ended up being the one telling my sister, and my sister and my dad, they're so close, like they're really close.
Yeah.
So the moment that I told her, she turned around and she was going to beat the heck out of me. Like she was gonna
Yeah.
beat my ass up. because she didn't want to hear anything bad about my dad or anything like that. And I literally sat there. I was like on my knees. I was begging her to like listen to me and understand that I wasn't lying and that I would never lie to her, you know. But up until this day, she doesn't believe me. We haven't spoken in years, like literally in years. We haven't spoken. I think even when I went to my granddad's funeral, didn't speak to me at all. The only time she ever messaged me, she messaged me a couple of last year, towards the end of last year, not for a Merry Christmas or anything, but for a I'm pregnant, and she's like, but I need clothes and milk for my child when he's born. And I'm like, again, calling me, messaging me for what, for what they want. But no, when I went through, yeah, going through that and stuff, like it took a big toll on my life as well. Like that's when I started, I couldn't trust a male, like
Yeah.
especially after finding that out. Like the only man that I could trust was my dad that adopted me and my granddad who, who's passed away and stuff. And I started questioning every single male in my family. I started questioning like, if my dad was able to do that, what about my uncles? You know, and I
Yeah.
was like, but I also trusted my brother enough to like know that he would never do anything like that. Because the moment that I told my brother about it, my brother wanted to murder my dad.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to murder my dad. He didn't care. Um, but
Did your
yeah,
mom
it was really
did,
tough.
did your mom ever did your mom ever reply what explain to you why she kept being with him? Did she ever say?
She she ended up saying that because I did ask her, like, I said to her, because because I found out like also back in 2018 at my granddad's funeral, I found out that my mom was filing for divorce for my dad. And
Okay.
I asked her, why did you stay? Like, why did you choose to live with him and be with
Mm-hmm.
him all this time?
Mm-hmm.
And she turned around and she said, because she was like, I never wanted any of my kids to grow up not knowing their dad or ever learning the love from a father. So like she only stayed with him because she wanted my younger siblings. Because when I left Tonga, my youngest brother was only 3 months old. So I didn't meet him until he was, I think, 3 years old, 3 or
Yeah.
4 years old. So like, and on top of that, my mom was like I said, I don't want, she didn't want any of her kids, younger kids, to grow up not knowing their dad or to ever grow up hating their dad and wondering like, why is mom and dad not together? She wanted to do it at an age, at the stage where my siblings were old enough for my mom, to sit down and say, look, in life, when you get married, there are hardships, and sometimes those hardships and the obstacles that you go through, you can't fix. So it's better to let go than to hold on to something that, that doesn't make you happy, or to hold on to something that's broken and that's not fixable, because when you break a glass, like, you can eventually you can eventually fix the glass, but it'll never be the same, but my mom had to fake it, like literally fake, her happiness to make sure that
Oh
my
my
younger
God.
siblings got the same love that we got from our parents being together. So it was tough, like really, really tough. And when I say my family is broken, it's like broken, but
Yeah.
people always saw our family as like the perfect family, the family that was always happy, the family that was always together. But you know now and then, I guess you gotta like fake certain things, but truth will eventually come out and stuff. But yeah, so that's what I went through with all of that. And like, the message that I got, because I when I told my my friends here, the girls that are here who are Polynesian, and majority of them are like, they're half Tongans as well. I know one of my girls had turned around and she, when I opened up to her about it, she turned around and she was crying to me. She was like, I have never heard another Tongan, let alone a Polynesian, but mainly a Tongan, speak out on a subject that's so taboo. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, it's like, it's a crime. It's a
Yeah.
crime to sexually assault. It's a crime to rape. It's a crime. It's a crime within itself. People think
Yeah.
that crimes are just, going out there and like murdering people, but there's different types of crimes out there. And I
Yeah.
said to her, and if people won't get held accountable for it, then like all we're doing is like, is
Allowing it.
approving
Yeah.
the fact, yeah, exactly, allowing the fact that this is, it's like we're giving consent to people to go out there and do it, and and she turned around and she stood up to her family. Like she ended up having to, and it's sad to say as well, like when you just speak up about it and you stand up for it, you do end up losing family. If anything, you will lose family or you won't. Like it depends on what type,
Yeah.
on
Your
your
family.
family.
Yeah.
If they, if they believe in your beliefs, like if they believe that it is wrong, then they will stand up for what's right. But if they believe that, they have to stick to what the Tongan cultural is back then, like you just have to sweep everything under the rug, then they will do that. And they would rather, and it's sad to say as well, there are families out there who would rather let go of their family and lose their family member than having to stick up for them and having to help them and support them in what they're going through with the struggles that they're going through with sexual assault and stuff. And it's sad to say that it's within our community and within Polynesia itself that this subject, like when women speak about it, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's done, like whatever.
Yeah. They're shamed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we're shamed for it. And that's when the question starts happening with like, oh, like what did you wear? What did you, and all this and that. And there was one of my other girls who just recently went through it as well. Like, she had gone out to a party and she was wearing fully covered clothes, like trackies, like long length stuff. And if she's like, I know she will be watching this, and I'm just like, Sila, I love you and I need you to know that like, it's okay to speak out and we're here to support you as well. And she's she's residing in Brisbane and she's going through this, people are attacking her saying like, oh well, because she got point blank drunk, like really really drunk, and she entrusted a friend of hers to like look after her and to protect her, but he turned around and did that to her and abused her, but thought that it was like she consented it, but you can't consent anything when you're drunk.
Yeah.
And she and when she put up her story, when she voiced it, the amount, and she's Tongan, she's full Tongan, like and the amount of like abuse that she was getting was like, people were like messaging her, like saying to like bringing her family into it, like saying that it's better if she died and all this and that, and like she should take her family with her. Like it's really sad,
Yeah.
upsetting things, and she was crying on social media. Like I always tell people, like, you do not have to like prove yourself, or like you don't have to explain yourself
Yes.
to
Yeah.
small-minded people who don't understand that this is an everyday basis for Polynesian girls, for like Tongan women. We go through things and people are so quick to judge us. Like they blame, like they turn around and they said to her, yeah, but that's what happens when you go out and you get drunk, and then they turn around and they're like, well, you must have dressed up like a slut, that's probably
Yeah.
why you were easy to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, we're being shamed for being Tongan women, for
Yeah.
being women in general. Being a Tongan, it was really tough. So like watching up until now, she's still going through it. And I'm just constantly like telling her, like, you do not need to explain yourself to these types of people, because these people they won't listen and they
Yeah.
won't change their mind.
Yeah.
Like, it's an everyday thing that we all go through. And it's sad and it's upsetting, especially nowadays when like, in the like nowadays generation, like we still go through it, but you would expect that they would learn from from older days, from what we've gone through. You would think that they would learn and like stand up for it, but instead they're standing against it. And they're just like, they're blaming the victim for for voicing it out, but supporting the perpetrator, like
Yeah. Yeah.
supporting
Yeah.
the person that did it. And it's like, it's so wrong. And it's just, it's sad, it's really really upsetting. But like, yeah, that was my my story of it all, of going through it and stuff. And I do hope that for those of you that have gone through it, for those Tongan women out there who have gone through it or are going through it, and you feel like nobody's listening, and you feel like nobody's out there and there's no one there to support you, like my Instagram is on it's on public, it's not on
Yeah.
private. If you want
Hmm.
anybody to talk to, like, reach out to myself, reach out to any of these people that
Yep.
that has been on this podcast and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
reach out to everyone. Like, it's not gonna help if you just bottle it all up, because at the end of the day, you're just killing yourself, you're eating yourself up, and it's not healthy. And the last thing that I want the youth nowadays to go through is having to turn to suicide, to end these problems, when in fact there are people out there who will help you. Like, we will help you, and we will make sure that it's being voiced out. We will make sure that we can't, I can't promise that the person that did it to you will be behind bars, but I can promise you that we will stand against it, and we will help you.
Yeah.
It's helping each other. Like, we will help you survive and go through, we'll help you through the whole entire process and stuff. Like, just speak up. Don't be scared to, don't be scared to be shamed. You will be shamed whether or not, on a daily basis. You will be shamed for just sitting there and just looking, taking a photo, or just talking, or or just even opening your mouth, or even breathing. You will be shamed for everything. But yeah, speak out. Like, just honestly, just speak out. And I'm, like I said, my DM is open for you guys to message me or anybody else, in fact, for any advice or for help and stuff. But yeah.